Fighting breaks out in the Middle East between Iran and Israel. Video from the West Bank shows missiles in the air on the way to Tel Aviv in Israel, part of Iran's retaliation for large-scale airstrikes carried out by Israel early this morning. Iran says the attack was a declaration of war, and tensions in the region, which were already high, are flaring up even more. This afternoon, Iran fired hundreds of missiles toward Israel. Most of them were intercepted by Israel's air defense system. And we now know the U.S. is also helping Israel shoot down the missiles. But at least one struck its target in Tel Aviv. We're hearing reports of several, possibly dozens of people taken to the hospital for injuries. This morning, Israel targeted nuclear facilities in different cities across the country, attempting to destroy Iran's nuclear program. It also targeted and killed several top military leaders, including 3 generals, as well as Faroudin Abbasi, former head of the country's atomic energy organization. The strikes were made unilaterally. The United States was not involved. After the attack, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu addressed Israel shortly after the strikes.
A nation of lions will rise. The lion will rise and the lion will be exalted. We are going to achieve many achievements, thanks to you and thanks to our heroic soldiers, with the help of God.
In Iran, Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei released a statement saying in part, "Don't think that they hit and it's over. No, they started the work and started the war. We will not allow them to escape safely from this great crime they committed." Now we would like to bring on EWTN News Contributor Alberto Fernandez. Alberto, thank you so much for joining us. Israel says it launched the attacks to keep Iran from developing a nuclear weapon. How close was Iran to creating one?
Well, we don't know exactly, but we know that this is something that Iran has been working on for years, and supposedly Israel had, reasonable intelligence that the breakout time had become much sooner, maybe within a year, maybe a matter of months. And it does seem that there's considerable evidence from the IAEA, the International Atomic Energy Agency, that Iran had violated protocols and was speeding up, moving towards that eventuality.
The IAEA definitely was. The reasoning that we're hearing everywhere was the motivator for the intervention from Israel. But we know that the U.S. and Secretary Rubio said that the U.S. was not involved in the attack, but we are already helping shoot down these missiles. How likely is it that the U.S. will be further engaged in this conflict?
Well, that's a very interesting question. I think it's mostly up to Iran. Iran had as its strategy something they announced dozens of times, that if such a conflict happened, such as we're seeing, that they would target American bases in the region and target American targets elsewhere. So it kind of seems that the ball is in the Iranian court as far as targeting the Americans, which would then, lead to an American escalation. So far, that doesn't happen, which conflicts with Iranian rhetoric from the past, that they would immediately target the Americans. They haven't done that yet.
What have you heard about the negotiations that were supposed to take place on Sunday?
Well, I've heard that they're canceled, but certainly the Trump administration has made it clear that they are interested in a negotiating process, and they have signaled that to the Iranians. So the question now is, we've had kind of almost 24 hours of this war. We've had the initial Israeli strikes, and we had the Iranians failed with some drone attacks, but the Iranians then responded with over 100 missiles, as you said. Some people have been injured, some in critical condition in Israel, including, by the way, 5 Palestinian children. So it's not Israelis that have been hurt by this Iranian barrage. The question is, what happens now? Now Israel responds, and then Iran responds, and at what point do we talk about kind of an end game or a way out for one or both sides?
Well, now Iran has called this attack an act of war. Is this really a war? Does Israel have the capacity to fight on 2 fronts? It's currently engaged in the war with Hamas, an Iranian proxy.
Well, the war with Hamas is at a very low level. It may not seem that way to the Palestinians of Gaza, but it certainly is. It's nothing compared to the conflict that is happening with Iran. The Israelis plan for at least a couple weeks of war. It seems that Iran has a lot more to lose than Israel in the war continuing. Israel has refrained from doing two things so far. Number one, Israel hasn't attacked political targets in Iran, the political leadership. And number two, Israel has refrained from attacking economic targets, meaning Iran's oil industry. It would be very easy for Israel to bring Iran to its knees by targeting that. So we're at a kind of inflection point to see what both sides do next.
Well, we'll be watching that very carefully and waiting for your analysis. Thank you, Alberto.
Thank you.